Hello everyone and welcome back to the third part of how to paint Stormcast Eternal Castigators. In this video I'm going to focus on the base. Here is the list of colors which I'm going to be using in this video. I'm going to leave the list down in the description below. So the first color I'm going to use is Karak stone, and I start base painting the rocks and rubbles on the bases. As you might have seen it in the previous videos, I base painted the whole surface of the base and I used Mechanicus standard grey as a starting color. Now I'm going to use Death World Forest, and I start base painting the vines, the leaves and thorns that can be found on the bases. Now I'm going to continue the base coloring with Dryad bark, and with this color I cover the soil parts of the bases. And finishing the base painting with Zandri dust, I base paint the bones and skulls. Now I can start to give it a shade. First I use Agrax Earthshade, and I am applying it on the Mechanicus standard grey stone parts. Then I use Athonain Camoshade and start applying it onto the leaves, the thorns and veins. After that I use Seraphim Sepia on the Karak stone base painted rubbles and rocks. And finishing it with Nuln oil, I apply it onto the soil areas. Once the washes are completely dry, I am going to use Dawnstone, and with an old small brush, which is big enough just to fit in the smaller parts, I start dry brushing the pavement. And finishing the pavement and asphalt with Administratum grey, I do an edge highlight. First I am trying to pick only one corner and try continuing on the whole base. That highlights so it can give a bit more of a variety where the light source is coming from. Now I can focus on the rubble parts. For this I use Wraithbone. I use again an old small brush, which can help me dry brushing with more accuracy the parts. Then I switch onto a small layer brush and I start picking out the sharpest features and edges on the rubbles. In this way I have a nice highlight to it. Now I can focus on the thorns and leaves. For this I use Elysian green and I start layering all the parts. And with Ogryn Camo, I give an edge highlight on the leaves and thorns. I am trying to follow the light source, which I used previously on the pavement, to make it match more. Now I'm moving on to the skulls and bones, and for this I use Morghast bone. And with a small layer brush I start layering all these parts. Now I'm going to use Rhinox hide and I start base painting the coin pouch. And also the cover of the laying book. Now I'm going to use Nuln oil wash onto the Rhinox hide painted areas. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to use Gorthor brown. And again, my trusty old brush. I'm starting to give a dry brush onto the pouch and also the book cover. Once that's done, I switch onto a small layer brush and I start picking out some of the sharpest and most raised surface of each part. Now I'm going to use Leadbelcher and I start base painting the coins that are laying on the floor. I found it a bit boring using only one color, so I decided to paint some of the coins with Hashut copper. And just to give it a bit more variety, I'm using Retributor armor, and I also use it on some of the coins. Now I'm going to use Zandri dust, and I start layering the string that should have kept the coin pouch sealed. And to give it a bit more depth on the strings, I use Agrax Earthshade, and I also want to give a bit of dirt onto the coins, so I also apply it onto the coins. Now I can focus on the pages. For this, first I use Rack Earth Flash as a base color, and I start base painting all the pages. Once that's done, I'm going to apply Seraphim Sepia wash onto the pages. Once it's completely dry, I am going to use Palette Witch Flesh, and I start layering all the pages, giving special focus around the edges. And finishing it with white scar, I do an edge highlight on the paper pages, and I also try to continue the same highlight just as on the asphalt as well, just to make it more blended together. Now the pages needs some writing as well, so I'm going to use Abaddon Black for it. I used 2 parts water, 1 part paint, and with an extra small artificer brush I am making very small thin lines on the pages. The book cover corners are quite metally, so I'm using Retributor armor as a base color for it. Then I apply an Agrax Earthshade wash onto the gold details. Once it's completely dry, I am using Stormhost Silver, and I base paint the pins and also do an edge highlight on the edges. I base painted the rims with Abaddon Black, and my Stormcast Eternal Castigators with the Gryph-hound are 100% finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful or helpful. If you enjoyed, do subscribe to my channel, hit the like button if you found it useful, and hit the bell button if you want to be notified about future video tutorial contents. Also, big thanks to my Patreon who are helping by supporting the channel with $5 a month, which helps sufficiently to make these videos available. But that's about it. See you all in the next one. Happy painting. Cheers.